I want to talk about the toxoplasmosis, not to scare people and not to like go too deep into this, but I've never met anybody else who
Same.
had
This is
this.
niche.
Yeah, very niche. So, I mean, I was in the hospital last April because I had swollen lymph nodes all over my body for a couple months and debilitating fatigue and can't remember my other. I think I had headaches, I had night sweats. So in my head, I was like, it's lymphoma.
Of
It
course.
is
Yeah, yeah,
lymphoma.
yeah. Take me
And
to the hospital.
yeah. And even my friends who are doctors were like, oh, you need to get like a FNA, like a fine needle aspiration. Like you have, lymphadenopathy all over your body
Oh my
for like a
God.
long time. And I had blood work done with my GP. Everything was normal. And she was like, to her credit, she's like, I don't know, I think it's like a virus, it'll pass. And I was like,
You're like, sis.
okay. Yeah. I'm like, I get if it's like one lymph node. I mean, it was everywhere.
Oh,
And finally, like the fatigue and everything got so debilitating. I went to the ER because like nobody else would see me. And they randomly did like this whole battery of tests. They did CT and everything. And then they did blood tests and it came back as like acute toxoplasmosis. And I was like, what? I don't have a cat. I don't eat pork. These are the normal places. I mean, pregnant women are advised to stay away from cats because it can be found in the cat litter and, raw pork and things like that. But for me, I'm not exposed to either of those things. And I was like, this is so weird. It was so weird. And then, of course, if people don't know about toxoplasmosis, it can be devastating for people who are severely immunocompromised because they can't fight it. It can go into your brain. It can cause cysts. It can cause cysts, I think, in your muscles and your hearts. Like it can be very, very devastating, like I said. But for people with normal, healthy immune systems, at least this is what the infectious disease doctor said to me, you'll be fine. Like, no treatment necessary.
oh,
You'll
like
be
your body's just going
fine.
to fight it.
Yeah. And I was like, really?
You're like, but I'm in the ER.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't treat it. I didn't treat it.
Okay.
So that's where I
So
am.
interesting. I have so many questions. I'm shocked that the ER checked you for it. I
Yeah.
only found that I had it, and mine wasn't acute. It was like
Dormant.
underlying dormant. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm sure I was having symptoms from it. Apparently, it can make you like really crazy, for
Angry,
lack of better words.
crazy,
Like
yeah.
like it can make you very off and like act different. And I
They
found
did a
it.
study, not to interject, but they did a study on, I think in San Francisco, like at the medical school there on, I want to say it was maybe like motorcycle accidents or something.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about.
People were more likely to ride. The person that told me it called them crotch rockets
Yeah.
because you're driven towards danger when you have toxo. I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm probably totally saying that wrong, but I was
Yeah.
blown away.
Yeah. You have like an
What?
affinity, like you have less of like an inhibitory
Yes.
response in your body. Yeah.
So I found it because I was doing Lyme testing, and it's technically a co-infection of Lyme, or it's something that they test with those different bacterial infections. So my doctor saw it. He was like, this definitely needs treatment. I did antibiotics, and like I said, I never tested again. So I don't really know. Part of me is sort of like avoiding that. I grew up with cats, so I'm sure it probably had to do with that. But it's one of those things that's also like not really being talked about. A lot of people are probably walking around with it and don't know. But I think it's really interesting that yours was acute.
Mm-hmm.
So you like had been hit with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't make sense. And then I also came back positive for brucellosis, which is like from farm animals. And I'm like, what?
I'm sorry, this mix is not adding up.
Like talking about these incidental findings, looking for something, you'll find something. I was like, no. And they actually sent that out to a different lab to like, I think they sent it to Johns Hopkins or like Mayo Clinic or something to like
They like needed to do research on it.
Yeah. And then I think that came back as like a false positive. I was like, thank you. I have not been around any farm animals.
Wow. Did the lymph nodes get better?
Yes. Yeah.
So that was it.
I did get better. I got better within a few weeks, but then when I had the Botox poisoning and that whole thing started, at first I was like, I texted my injector the next day and I was like, have you ever had someone have a bad reaction? No. Then I like go to my GP. No. Then I go to, neurologist. No. And then I called the ID infectious disease guy and I was like, I feel really not right. Equilibrium, debilitating panic, like overnight. And I was
Wow.
like, the toxin went to my brain. Like
Of course.
you have these things in your head, and especially, being immersed in the wellness world, it's almost like we're armed with just enough information to jump to the worst conclusion. I have somebody in my life who was like, you need to like get off Google, like, because you know enough to make the worst decision or
Yes.
make the worst conclusion, but not enough.
To
And
like be really informed in that conclusion. Yeah.
yeah. And, she was like, you're not an expert. And I'm like, agreed. But again, back to what we were saying about like being your own advocate, because unfortunately, like we have to be. And I know a lot of women listening, I'm sure, have the experience of going to a doctor, and I'm pro Western medicine too. But this is a common experience. You go to the doctor with real symptoms and you're brushed off. So you do have to kind of gather information and try to put the puzzle pieces together. But then there's also a point where like, then it's kind of to your detriment. Like it's such a tricky place to be.
It's a very delicate balance to find. And to be honest, I still haven't fully struck it because, to your point, you have to dig, you have to look. I mean, I wouldn't have found Nicole Sack's work if I hadn't been in the Reddit and Facebook rabbit holes. But they also contributed to months, if not years, of additional pain because I was in support groups of people that were equally as triggered and didn't know it was emotional. And we're all talking about it. And like literally just talking about bladder pain could probably make both of us feel like we have a UTI. So it can be super triggering. But again, like if you were to Google toxoplasmosis, like nothing of use would probably even really come up. You'd have to really dig and dive. And actually one of the parasite cleanses that I did, I don't know if you're familiar with Kim Rogers. She's like the worm queen on TikTok. She talks about
Rogers
toxo.
Hood?
Yes.
Yeah.
She talks about toxo, and it's something that she believes her herbal parasite cleanse, which I'm going to do in a couple of weeks again, helps to rid from your body. So I don't know.
I want to hear about this parasite cleanse because I see them on my TikTok feed. Is it really how people make it look?
Yes.
Without getting too much. Yeah.
100%.
Her face is telling me yes.
You will pass parasites.
Oh,
You will see them. You will feel violated by them because they have been living off of your body. And it's really, I think it's something that we should do at least once a year. I think a lot of cultures have that baked in. I think parasites, toxo, I think falling some level into that category can really affect our mental health. Mental health is something that I've struggled with on and off throughout my life. And doing a parasite cleanse for the first time last spring is something that like I was blown away by how amazing I felt mentally afterwards.
really? Okay, you're going to have to give me the name of that cleanse.
I got you.
Offline. That's amazing because, again, I think it's hard to discern. We're so flooded with all of this information and who's legit and what is legit and what's going to help me. And it's hard to know. And obviously it's different for everybody, but that's a pretty powerful testimonial.
Yeah, and I try now, and I wasn't always this way, but I try to really approach things like a parasite cleanse or, whatever it is that I'm doing at the time with less of this desperation that I need it to fix me. And it took me a long time to get there. I used to do these things. I would fly to another state to see a doctor, and I would have so much anxiety that like, what if this doesn't fix it? And I was putting so much weight on the success of it. And now I'm like, great, this is a great add-in. And I know I'm very lucky to be in a place where it's just an add-on and I'm not in that place of desperation. But the point in me sharing that is that it is possible to get there. And I think leaning into these cleanses or detoxes or whatever it may be as an added tool for support is really the right way to look at it versus this thing that I have to do or I won't be complete or healed.